happening in D.C. right now. There's no better time to have this woman at the table. Please welcome the author of the new book, Blowout, which is over here. Hold on, baby, let me have it. Blowout, Rachel Maddow. So before we dive in, you were hobbling. What happened? Your foot's in a boot?
I've got this fashion-forward look going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so boring. When you're old and you fall down, everything falls apart, which is the new thing that I've learned in my mid-40s. I just missed a step.
Did you hear that?
Whatever.
Okay.
We're ignoring you. We're ignoring you. I'm with you on it.
I missed a step. I tore 3 ligaments, and I have an avulsion fracture, which is where your ligament tears and rips off a piece of your bone.
Right.
Do not ever get an avulsion fracture.
Just by missing
Yeah.
a step.
All I did was miss a step. I was getting from a dock
That's
under
how
a
it
boat.
works.
I was going out fishing with my friend. I still went fishing, though. I fell into the boat.
Yes.
And we propped me up on a chair with ice, and I caught bluefish. It was great.
And there you are. Were you ice fishing?
That's ice fishing in
Yes,
Massachusetts.
I love that.
Wow.
So we're going to get into some hot topics that we've been talking about. You know who in the White House. That press conference. The press conference yesterday with President of Finland. You know, Joy has lost her mind. She wants people to see.
It was so
Put him in a home.
Megan, I'm with you. I mean, the poor president of Finland. I mean, what do we send them as a country? Like, do you send chocolates? Do you send flowers? We're going to give you a state dinner with the next president. We're sorry.
Give him a new guy.
Exactly.
Give him a new guy to come see next time. It'll be better next time you come.
I mean, you don't even. Our world standing is a subjective thing, and it's sort of amorphous. But in those moments, to have the entire country cringing for the behavior of our president just isn't good. It isn't good in terms of people wanting to go into public service. It isn't good in terms of respect for the office. And it's not good for the Finns. I mean, those poor people with their poor president.
Well, you saw a picture where he was like, what the?
He just wants to escape, like, don't put this on me.
He looked like a bully. He was bullying the reporters.
Well, we're a complete embarrassment around the world right now, so let's just put that out there. And I know that you think this impeachment is a good idea, going ahead with it. My question for you, though, is that right? Just nod.
I think he's going to be impeached.
Yes. Are you for that or against it?
It's not my job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's your read on the fact that, you know, if he is impeached, he'll never be convicted in the Senate because Moscow Mitch is in charge, and he's not going to do it?
I think that's likely. I mean, but, you know, that's sort of the way it works. We've only ever had 2 presidents impeached, one in the 1860s, one in the 1990s, and in both cases they were impeached in the House, and then the Senate didn't throw them out. That's sort of the way we've done it. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't, if the Constitution requires you, and if the country's honor requires you to impeach somebody, I feel like trying to game out what the political consequences are going to be. Nobody can figure it out. Nobody can predict it. We haven't done this enough times.
But look at how it's working. He's unraveling already because of it. So it's working.
I don't know how he's going to behave when it gets to the point where he is impeached. He's never really gotten in trouble for anything in his life. So how does he behave? Does he get sort of more aggressive, or does he collapse?
He's going to fall down on the floor. He's going to kick his legs up and go, I'm not going. Or he'll sing that song, and I am telling you.
Well, but let's say he's impeached and convicted, right? Let's just say, because you only need, let's say, 20 Republican senators to flip. And I think you quoted something that said maybe 35 Republicans undercover.
That was Jeff Flake. Yeah.
Jeff Flake are willing,
secretly willing.
Yeah,
if it was a secret vote, right?
Yeah, so let's say that happens. It looks like, and then Vice President Pence would become President Pence. But it looks like Vice President Pence knew about this phone call with the Ukrainian president because he had an aide that was on the call. However, he seems to deny that he knew Trump was going after the Bidens. But that explanation seems a little fishy. Yeah. Right? Could he be in as much trouble?
This is sort of new reporting from the Washington Post, which is that Pence basically did it too. Yeah. That Pence, as soon as Trump had this call with Zelensky, went over to talk to Zelensky in person to say, you're not getting any military aid, and we need you to to do those investigations. And the whole defense,
Who
I mean,
said that? Pence.
Which is exactly what Trump is going to be impeached for.
Yeah,
I mean, telling another country to help us in the election is both illegal and impeachable.
Right.
But making it contingent on military aid is just that much worse. Pence appears to have been the guy who connected those things explicitly to the president. His defense is, now, I didn't know when I was telling him to do these investigations that it was necessarily about Biden. But the president had already had this Biden discussion with Ukraine. Pence's top aide was on it. He'd been given the transcript at least twice. He'd been given it as part of his briefing materials before that. So the whole idea that he didn't know seems really flimsy. And
So
if he gets impeached too...
Then it's Nancy Pelosi, President Nancy Pelosi. That would be something.
But I don't know if that'd be good.
With all due respect, that's a true fever dream of yours, Joy.
Well, I think it's possible they could both be impeached, but I don't think it's likely that either of them will be removed. Fair? I mean...
Listen to Rachel.
Because of the Republican Party, that's all. Not because it's wrong.
My
Because of the
question.
Senate, yeah.
Okay, so this was blowing up all over Twitter yesterday, at least conservative Twitter. So it turns out that House Intel Committee Chairman Adam Schiff knew about the whistleblower complaint in advance. The whistleblower spoke to a House aide about it, and then the aide told Schiff. So even if that's standard practice, when Schiff was recently asked directly, he said, quote, "We have not spoken directly with the whistleblower."
Yeah.
Now, that's a lie. And I keep saying that Adam Schiff is the wrong person to do this, because if we are going to go forward with impeachment, it needs to be as clean and look as nonpartisan as possible.
Well, he didn't speak with the whistleblower, though.
But is this another misstep for Democrats that muddies the case?
No. I mean, it is standard practice for whistleblowers come forward all the time to the House Intelligence Committee, which is run by Democrats, also to the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is run by Republicans. And both of those committees have now said, yeah, this happens all the time, and we always do the same thing, which is that we have them speak with the staffer, and then the staffer tells them to get a lawyer and file a whistleblower complaint. On the House side, they say this happens 2 or 3 times a month. Like, this is just a normal thing. And so Schiff didn't have any interaction
You don't
with
think
the
he
whistleblower.
misspoke or it muddies the water?
No, I don't. And I also feel like this focus on how the whistleblower, on who the whistleblower is and how the whistleblower's complaint was handled, both by the Republicans and the Democrats, is a side story.
Can I just follow up really quickly, though, because one of the catalysts for this was when he was talking about parody, that I was making a parody when he was...
in his opening statement?
And I think, again, I want this to be taken as seriously as possible, because I want conservatives to understand, at least for me, this seems extremely serious.
Yeah.
And when he says it's a parody, that doesn't make me take what he's saying
This is when he was characterizing the way that Trump behaved on that call.
Sort of like a mafia don.
Yes, and he was making the point that this was like a mafia-style shakedown.
As a former prosecutor, it sounded like that to me.
Yes, and he's making that he's making those comments in his opening statement in the context of everybody having the White House notes on the call. So everybody knows what's on the call. He's characterizing it to say, as a former prosecutor, well, it sounds like a mafia shakedown. I think that's the point.
But why even have a parody when the call speaks for itself? That was my problem
Dramatic.
in all of
It's
this.
dramatic.
Well, I'm with Megan. I think it turns people off, if anything, because people know he's a partisan. But
No, that Schiff is a partisan?
well, he's had an effort to get him impeached well before this.
Well, on the basis...
And so the basis of the Mueller report.
He actually was reticent on impeachment. Schiff has been, as the head of the Intelligence Committee, he's been very much in the public eye on this stuff, but he has not been one of the people who's been
I thought
pushing
the
for
way he
impeachment.
opened his
Nadler
statement,
has.
especially with Joe
Nadler has,
McGuire,
but not Schiff.
was quite partisan. If you're watching it with an open mind, that to me felt uncomfortable. But my issue is because I take this very seriously. I think the Ukraine call, that to me is very clear-cut of an abuse of power. And my frustration is that there has been a crying wolf for so long. This is it. This is the smoking gun. He's out for 2 years now from Democrats, from some members of the media, that now you have people in this country that are like, we don't believe anything anymore. They're shutting it off. They are not taking it as seriously as they should. And I ask you, do you think you're part of that problem? Do you think that you have
Rachel?
You and others in the media?
I think it's a very good point. But I think it's a consequence.
I'm in the media too, so like we're all guilty of
It's a
things at
consequence
times.
of having a really scandal-ridden presidency with all sorts of stuff happening all the time that in any other presidency would have already led to impeachment.
Yeah.
I mean, the president today, just before you guys got on the air today, the president went out on the South Lawn and he was asked, what did you want the Ukrainians to do? And he said, I want them to investigate Biden.
Right.
And I want the Chinese to do it too. So all these questions about like, did this happen on the call?
Yeah.
And was it hearsay? And who's the whistleblower and how it was handled? Like, we can put all that aside. He's just admitted to it on the South Lawn. So you don't need an inquiry.
I feel like I'm getting closer with you. Maybe he should take a
In a
rest
home.
for a
Go to
couple.
a home.
We'll be right back with more with Rachel Maddow. Hey, we're back with Rachel Maddow, who just celebrated 11 years with her own show.
Oh, nice.
11 years. The Rachel Maddow Show.
On cable, that's like 400 years.
Yes, it is.
It's so true, though. The hours never end on cable.
It's true.
Well,
it's true. And
congratulations.
boy, we turn over as a group. Yeah.
All right,
That is so true.
we were talking earlier about Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And I'm personally nervous for him. I think there's a lot at stake here. And I think Nancy Pelosi, deep down, is probably nervous about how this ultimately ends. For a while, people thought he's the greatest chance of getting Trump out of office. Every time he's in a headline and his son's in a headline, do you think that's good for? Is he handling this well?
Are you nervous just because you think he's running a poor campaign, or you think that?
I like Joe Biden, and I think he's someone that could do great things in terms of bringing character back to this country. I'm nervous that all of this will end up hurting him the most.
Well, I mean, when you're at the top, people take shots at you.
Yeah.
And he's been the front runner from the very beginning, ever since before he even got into this Democratic race. And with 20,000 candidates running on the Democratic side, to have one clear front runner for all this time has been a big deal. And so he's going to take the shots.
Has he handled it well, though,
How he
so
handles the
far?
shots is another matter. I mean, I think you have to wait till you get closer to the general election to see what it's going to be like if it's him versus Trump. But the Democrats have a real fight on their hands now, too. He started as the front runner. Elizabeth Warren is right now topping him in some national polls. Trump has come after her in totally different ways and sort of, to my mind, sort of racist ways.
Has he stopped the Pocahontas thing?
He has, but he says he's going to bring it back later. Once we give Chief Fields a little chance to forget about it, and then bring it back later and suck him.
And it's kind of early, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
The
still
Democrats,
early.
I mean, Democrats have a debate next week. They're going to have 12 people on the stage next week.
Too
It's
many.
early.
Oh my God, pray for those moderators, those poor people.
You've been there.
I have been there. Why do you think I'm such a mess?
That's why you fell.
I mean,
Is that what happened to your foot and you lied about the whole
technically I
thing?
fell down, but I believe it was the debate. I believe it was.
You know, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to ask you, and I was thinking about it last night. And I have the unique experience that I briefly worked at MSNBC. I worked at Fox News for much longer. I obviously work here now. I don't know what that was. And I would like to say, you know, it's interesting being in the underbelly of both places.
Yeah.
And conservative media dominates liberal media across the board. And ratings, their viewers are more loyal. I know that you were friends with Roger Ailes. What do you think was the key to conservative success and conservative brilliance in Fox News that, again, they just lap you guys and still do? And that's your own verbiage that you used one time on Bill Maher.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any shame in it. Listen, I was in talk radio before I was ever in TV, and you want to talk about conservative domination in talk radio. I mean, part of it is that the conservative media world has set itself up as, you can only come to us, don't believe anybody else, everybody else is against you, we're the only people who will tell you anything that you need, and you should not read the paper and not trust any other sources of news. And when you kind of lock in an audience like that, even if you don't have a majority of the country listening to you or watching you, you get them uniquely, and you get them all day long, and you get them passionately. Now, I don't think that's good for the country, because I think you end up getting people on a single stream news source in a way that's not great.
Right.
I think in the rest of the media, you know, we're always bringing on people from different papers, and I cite Fox News reporting on my show and stuff. You know, I'll take reporting from anywhere. I don't care.
It seems like they have a more simplistic point of view.
Well, it's more of a political operation. I mean, that was one of the things I learned in getting to know Mr. Ailes, and it's not like we hung out or anything, but I talked to him about the business. And he really approached the business as a political operative who was trying to get Republican candidates elected and trying to move the Republican Party to the right. And he was running that as a constant campaign. I'm telling you, the people who are running MSNBC are not running a constant political campaign. They're just running a TV network. And when you don't have that same ideological drive, I think you end up producing a different product. We're sort of doing two different things. I don't think that Mr. Hannity and myself are doing parallel shows. I think we have different projects.
But they're in disarray now, so bravo.
Well,
Well,
comment.
we're always trying to get more conservatives here, and I think across the board on all networks, there should be more fusion of everything because that's how we're so tribal at the moment. But we have to talk about your book, Blowout.
Thank you very much.
It's a book about the oil and gas industry, but it started as a book about Russia's corrupt government, something we all know a lot about. Can you explain the connection between Russia's corruption and the horns that we're hearing every day?
When your dad came back from Ukraine in 2014, as the Ukrainian people were rising up to throw out their pro-Putin
Beautiful
dictator.
moment, yes.
And immediately thereafter, Russia invaded Ukraine and took part of them.
Yeah.
He came back and he said, Russia is a gas station masquerading as a country.
Said that a lot.
Yeah, and that was the first time he sort of introduced that, and then he stuck with it. And I always thought, like, that's interesting. Like, what is he saying about Russia's economy and Russia and oil and gas that explains their bad behavior here? And it always just sort of stuck with me, and I didn't end up digging into it because I don't know anything about the oil and gas industry. I didn't end up digging into it until I tried to figure out why is Russia throwing all these wild pitches, including the pitch that they threw at us in 2016.
Yes.
And your dad was right. It's in part because they have this sclerotic, cockeyed economy that only depends on one thing. And it's a bad idea to base your economy on oil and gas. And when you're Vladimir Putin and that's all you've got, you end up trying to use oil and gas as a weapon around the world. And that's what they did to Ukraine. That's what they've done to Western Europe. And it ends up making them into a really weird country that behaves very poorly around the world. And the oil and gas industry has enabled it in some way.
You think Russia is who bombed the Arabs?
Who bombed
Or
here?
The Saudi oil
the
field.
Saudi, sorry, my bad. The Saudi oil.
Oil.
I don't know. That's above my pay grade. I mean, I do think that there is, for everything that happened with the Mueller report, all of the scandal about this, all the crying wolf about impeachment and all that stuff, I do think Russia explains a lot of what's been going on, including a lot of what's behind this.
By the way, Rachel,
scandal.
my dad's not the whistleblower.
I know,
He's
but
not the
is today his
whistleblower.
last day? Is today his last day?
Yeah, he's
as
on a plane
ambassador?
right now. He's
Have
on a
you
plane.
talked to him about why he quit?
Come back.
I will.
Just come back.
Anytime.
Come back and hang.
Thank you.
Thanks to Rachel Maddow.
Thanks, Paul.
You can catch her weeknights on MSNBC. You see, I just tried to say it right. Her new book, Blowout, is available now. And you know what, y'all? You're so good.